Welcome to Crossroads. I'm your host, Joshua Philipp, and today we have with us Alex Newman, author of Crimes of the Educator. He's also an investigative journalist and teacher, and he's here to talk to us about the, say, Marxist kind of agenda within our education system, which even actually predating Marxism, I guess, in different forms. But real pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about your book. This is an interesting concept that, that Marxism and communism, I guess even the Owenite type theories, might be influencing our education systems. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what we're essentially arguing in the book is that the public education system as it stands has really become a criminal enterprise. And I recognize that's a very serious charge. But when you look at what's happening, when you look at what they're doing, and by that we don't mean teachers. I'm a teacher myself, not at a public school. But most teachers, are in it for the right reasons. They really do want to educate the kids. But the educational establishment as such has really become a criminal enterprise. They're taking our money and they're perpetrating a monstrous fraud on us. They say, give us your children and give us your money and we're going to educate them. And yet the government's own data shows that half of the kids graduate unable to read. Most of them graduate unable to do even basic mathematics. So clearly they're not educating the kids. They are coming out with in-depth knowledge on gender theory and the man-made global warming hypothesis as if it were gospel truth, but the reality is they're not getting an education. So you add to that, the drugging of the children, the exposure of these children to obscene material and pornography and gender confusion, the deliberate turning of our children into functional illiterates. That's something that a lot of people don't understand. We recognize now the federal government's data shows that half of adult Americans are functionally illiterate, but there's this idea that, it's just an accident. Well, we've known since the 1840s that the very same method they're using today under Common Core to teach our children reading doesn't work. In fact, when it was first tried out under Horace Mann, it was debunked within a few years, and yet they're still using it today. So we argue that they're committing crimes against our nation, against our people, against our children, and that it needs to stop.
Interesting. So you're saying that the poor education kids are receiving, in addition to the, say, political perceptions of the world based around race theory, gender theory, these types of things, are being done intentionally.
Absolutely they are. And the amazing thing is there's primary source documents proving this to be the case. If you look back at all the people who played an instrumental role in setting up the public education system, everybody knows John Dewey. He's considered the founding father of our public education system. The guy went to the Soviet Union. He loved what Lenin was doing, and he said so. He wrote a whole bunch of articles in the New Republic about how great it was. The schools should instill collectivistic ideas in the children. You go back to Horace Mann. This is a guy who was associating with the Owenites, the guys, followers of Robert Owen, who set up really the first communist experimental colony even before Karl Marx came along. The guy was blatantly a socialist. He wanted government schools to equalize all people. He wanted to get the Bible out of our education system, which at the time was like inconceivable in America. And so they all have been very open about their agenda. They wanted to de-Christianize America. They wanted to undermine our individual liberties. And the surest way to do that was to establish a national system of government education that would shape the views and the perceptions of the children. And it took a long time to get there. Over 150 years it's taken. But now we're starting to see the kind of culmination of it all with this nationalized and really globalized indoctrination system where the kids don't know anything about what's important. They don't know anything about American history. I mean, not even the basics. You can do surveys. Anybody can go talk to high school kids today, ask them about Independence Day, ask them about the Declaration of Independence. What you'll find is total ignorance. And what we're saying is this is deliberate. This was not an accident. We didn't suddenly forget how to educate children. We spend over $1 trillion on this educational system, and it's a giant fraud.
Interesting. I mean, that might come as a shock to some people, but maybe not so much of a shock to others, because we can see its effects. Now, I've heard that one of the criticisms against Common Core is that it's not teaching to have creative thinking, to be able to deal with the kind of ability to deal with the unconventional nature of the challenges life might throw at you. When you have a very black and white way of looking at the world, where it's A, B, C type answers, and not having to use moral wisdom to solve unconventional problems, which is usually what life has and throws at you. What kind of person are you creating, right? And I think what we're seeing, one of the criticisms against these things is you're creating workers. You're creating people who are taught not to question what they're being shown, who just nod their heads yes like bobbleheads, and that's about as deep as they think.
Exactly right. And it's interesting. Common Core is such an explosive topic, but just to give people a sense of how bad this is, they put together a validation committee, and they had only 2 subject matter experts, one in English, one in math. I serve on a board with both of them. We're on the advisory board for U.S. parents involved in education. In English, they had Dr. Sandra Stotsky, a delightful lady, wonderful lady. And she said this Common Core was going to reduce the critical thinking skills of children. We're taking out all the great literary study and all the great literacy and replacing it with garbage. Of course the kids aren't going to be able to read properly, so she refused to sign off. Then on the math side, you had Dr. James Milgram of Stanford. He said it's crummy, it's terrible, some of it's based on incorrect math, it's not mathematically correct. So from an academic point of view, it is disastrous. I mean, it's designed to dumb down the population. And once you start incorporating the fake history that they've added to it, the religious values that are added to it, people think the education is just neutral when it comes to religion. That is absolutely untrue. Going all the way back to John Dewey. John Dewey was one of the authors of the Humanist Manifesto. He admitted this was a religious document. The very first plank, we religious humanists believe the universe is self-existing and not created. That's the religion that's being taught to the children. And Common Core kind of took this all and overtly nationalized it, and now it's actually part of a global system. People don't realize that. We're here at the Eagle Council. Phyllis Schlafly got a document from UNESCO. This was years ago with Bill Gates and UNESCO, the UN's education agency. They signed an agreement. Bill Gates signed it with his own hand to develop a global educational system, standards, syllabus, curriculum, and everything. And then shortly after that, Bill Gates started pouring his own money into Common Core. Obviously, this is not coincidental, right? There's a trend toward using the education system to, as Obama called it, fundamentally transform our country. It's very dangerous. It's producing, exactly as you said, children who can't think, children who don't question, children who are uneducated, who are miseducated, and I don't think liberty in our republic will survive another generation or two of this.
Great. So where can people find your book?
It's available all over the internet, on Amazon. It's Crimes of the Educators, How Utopians Are Using Government Schools to Destroy America's Children.
Great. Real pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Great. Love to get you on again, by the way.
I'd love to come on again, so thank you.
Great. Everyone, please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.